It's fall, which means pumpkin recipes, and I'm so excited to be bringing you these pumpkin pancakes as well as a pumpkin spice latte. And I haven't left out those of you who might be gluten-free, dairy-free, egg-free. I have an alternative pumpkin pancake recipe for you that's so light and fluffy, as well as your own pumpkin spice latte. So let's get busy on our first easy homemade pumpkin pancake. For our ingredients, we have 2 cups of all-purpose flour, 3 tablespoons of brown sugar, 2 teaspoons of baking powder, 1 teaspoon of baking soda, 2 teaspoons of pumpkin pie spice, and a half teaspoon of salt. Then for our wet ingredients, 1 3/4 cups milk, 1 cup pure pumpkin puree, 1 large egg, 2 tablespoons of vegetable oil. I'm choosing avocado oil. You can use whatever oil you choose. All of my dry ingredients are being added to the flour. I'm not using pumpkin spice because I could not get pure pumpkin. I had to settle for pumpkin pie mix, so it already has the spice. I'm just dumping in all of those dry ingredients. Into my second bowl, I already have my milk, so I'm just putting in the egg and the pumpkin and the oil. Now I'm just whisking together my dry ingredients, and then I'll whisk together my wet ingredients. This recipe could not be easier. I'm putting the wet into a large bowl, and I'm adding my dry very slowly, and I'm just whisking it together. As soon as the big lumps are out, you are done. You'll want to stay through this whole video because remember, later in the video, I will be sharing a flourless, eggless, dairy-free, light, fluffy pumpkin pancake. You do not want to miss this because even if you can eat all of those things, you will love this pancake recipe. I was inspired today because it's our first day of homeschool for the year, so I wanted to start out right with a really good breakfast that the kids would be excited about. You can't see it because my camera angle is tight, but there is a line behind me waiting for some pumpkin pancakes. I'd like to take a minute and thank Moss Family TV for hosting this collab. I'll have all the links in my description box below. Nothing says fall more than this. Now it's time for a pumpkin spice latte. For the pumpkin spice latte, we're going to use 2 tablespoons of pumpkin puree, half a teaspoon of pumpkin pie spice, plus a little more for a garnish on top, freshly ground pepper if you like that, 2 tablespoons of granulated sugar, 2 tablespoons of vanilla extract, 2 cups of milk, and either 1 to 2 shots of espresso, which is about a 1/4 cup, or 1/3 to 1/2 cup of strong coffee. Then you can either make your own whipped topping with heavy cream, or you could do what I'm doing, which is buying the whipped topping from the store that you're going to be putting on top. I'm actually doubling the recipe as I do it, so I'm doubling the pumpkin pie mix. Now you can use just plain pumpkin, and then you can add a 1/2 teaspoon of pumpkin pie spice. Cooking down the pumpkin is super important to get that flavor to come out into the latte. I have my oven on medium, and I'm going to keep on stirring so that pumpkin doesn't get burnt. I'm only going to cook it for about 2 minutes. Now I'm warming up my milk, and I'm adding the vanilla in, and I'm warming it up and stirring gently. I really wish I would have done this before I started my pumpkin because that could have been slowly cooking, and I got a little nervous that I was going to burn my pumpkin, which is why I took it off the burner. So I would start the milk and vanilla before I started the pumpkin next time because that heats up much more gently. So you can see I'm keeping it whisking. I don't want the skin to form at the bottom of the pan of my milk. but I'm also trying to keep things going on the pumpkin as well. By now, I have shut that burner off. Once the milk and vanilla is heated through, you're going to put all of it in the blender. Now, you see me, I'm putting my pumpkin into the milk. That's fine to do, or you could just go ahead and go right to the blender with both of them. Once I get it poured in, I'm putting my lid on. The directions said that you should put a towel over the lid in case it comes splatting out. So I did this as a precaution, but when you see me do the dairy-free one, I won't be doing this because I did not have that problem. I just kept this thing going on high for a while and would check it and see when I had froth on the top of that milk. Here I'm pouring about a half cup of decaf coffee into each of our mugs because we're choosing to do decaf. Of course, you could also have done 1 to 2 shots of espresso. This gives you a good picture of that froth and how it forms. So what I did was I poured some in each of the cup, and then I even spooned some of the froth on top. In the end, it didn't matter a whole lot because I'm going to top it with whipped cream, but you could always stop at the froth stage and just put the pumpkin spice on that. Since these lattes are to celebrate our first morning of school, I'm being pretty generous with that whipped cream. I'm going to start them out happy. I'm just sprinkling a little bit of that pumpkin pie spice on top, and trust me, these were every bit as good as they look. Here they are in their glory. And by the way, what do you think of my Golden Girls mug? Now it's time for that flourless vegan pumpkin pancake I promised. For these flourless pumpkin pancakes, you need 1 cup of rolled oats, 1/4 cup of your milk of choice, and we chose almond milk, 1/2 cup of pumpkin puree, 1/2 teaspoon of pumpkin pie spice, 1 tablespoon of baking powder, 1 tablespoon of cider vinegar, 1 tablespoon of your favorite sticky sweetener, and we chose maple syrup, 1/4 cup of chocolate chips if you like chocolate in your pancakes, and you might also like to add 1/2 teaspoon of cinnamon. Now the magic of this is all you have to do is add all of the ingredients into your blender. The order you put them in absolutely does not matter. Now just turn on the blender and you're ready to go. And what I found with these is that you want to have it ground up very well. You want the oatmeal really good and chopped up fine. I have found that having it really well mixed helps to make the pancake very fluffy. And I even found that I needed a little bit extra of the milk so that they wouldn't be too thick when they went on the frying pan. I actually made this recipe twice so that I could compare and find the best way. Perhaps everyone has their own consistency preference, but this here I'm showing you the consistency that I was going for. And now's the easy part. You put them down on the griddle, and this would be the point where you put the chocolate chips on when you have the raw side up. We chose not to use chocolate chips. This recipe made 6 pancakes, so if you want a lot, you're going to want to double or triple it. These pancakes were a big hit in our house for even those who do eat gluten. And now let's go to the dairy-free latte. For the vegan pumpkin spice latte, I'm using pumpkin puree. Actually, I'm using the pumpkin pie mix in a can because they didn't have puree. If you use the puree, you'll also be adding a teaspoon of pumpkin pie spice, which I won't need to add because it's already in there. I'm also using soy milk because it froths. You could also use oat milk because that also has done well with frothing. Also maple syrup, sea salt, vanilla extract, and 2 to 4 shots of brewed espresso or 1/2 cup of brewed coffee. Now in my last recipe, used decaf coffee because we didn't want the caffeine. My daughter prefers to use the dandelion root tea because that's also a robust tea and will work in a latte. We'll also be adding this coconut whipped topping at the end. The first thing I'm going to do is heat up some water so I can get the tea steeping, and it can be steeping while I'm getting the rest of the latte ready. While that tea is steeping, I'm going to put my 4 tablespoons of pumpkin puree into the pan. You would also be adding your pumpkin spice, which I don't need to use since we're using the pie mix that has it added already. I'll also be adding in 3 tablespoons of maple syrup and 1/8 of a teaspoon of sea salt. I'm cooking this for about 2 minutes on low heat, and again, I'm whisking constantly so that I don't have to worry about any of it burning. Now I'm adding in my 2 cups of soy milk. Once I've added my soy milk, I'm going to turn the heat of the oven up to medium, and I'm going to be cooking this for about 4 minutes, whisking constantly so that I don't have to worry about any scalding. I've also decided that my tea has been steeping long enough, so I'm just going to get rid of that tea bag. Once my 4 minutes is up, I'm removing it from the heat before I add my 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract. Once the vanilla is mixed in, we'll put it in the blender, and that's where the magic happens, and we get all of this blended right up and all nice and frothy. I let this go for a good long while, and I will show you the froth that I got at the end. There it is, all done and nice and bubbly, and you can see how much froth is on the top as it sits there on the counter. I'm pouring in my soy milk mixture, and it is so wonderfully frothy. I actually liked this one better than I liked the one with the milk. As you can see, it's beautiful. Now I'm adding a generous amount of that coconut whipped cream, which is also dairy-free, of course, and then we're putting a little bit of pumpkin spice on top. I hope you enjoy all of these fall pumpkin recipes as much as my family and I did. As you can tell, I had a really great time making this video for you. It's quite enjoyable. I think you're also going to love my homemade pizza recipe, so I'm putting that in the upper right hand corner so that you can keep watching. I hope you know God loves you, and I love you too, and I can't wait to see you next time.